Welcome to We Politics. Today our guest is Drew Dilkens, the mayor of Windsor. Drew Dilkens has been the mayor for the past 4 years. Before that, he served 8 years on city council. He is a lawyer by profession. He received a Bachelor of Commerce and Law degrees from the University of Windsor, an MBA from Wayne State University, and a doctorate in business administration from the International School of Management. Drew, thanks for being here today.
My pleasure.
Herb Gray once told me that an election is like a job interview every time, and he always approached it like a job interview. So let's approach your campaign as a job interview. Why should you be reelected mayor of Windsor?
Well, it's a great question, and I believe Herb Gray was right. And that's the beauty of elections. Every 4 years, you get a chance to go out to the voters, you get the chance to reflect on what you've accomplished, and then tell them where you see the city going forward. So if I reflect on the last 4 years, when I said that we were going to build on the success of the city, I said we were going to create jobs. Our unemployment rate was 9.7%. Today we're down to 6.6%. I said we were going to hold the line on taxes. We've done that. In fact, we're the city that's the lowest city in Ontario in terms of tax rates, the city of Windsor. We've done that. I've told them that we were going to invest in infrastructure, roads and sewers and other infrastructure. We have made record investments in our infrastructure, in both roads and sewers, and trying to bring us up to a better standard and to become more resilient for the climate change that we're seeing. And so when I reflect back on what I said I was going to do and what I've done, I think we've done it. And I put taxpayers first. I look at unemployment. I look at housing prices. Housing prices in the city of Windsor have risen dramatically. This is good. These are people's largest investments. When I look at record building permits, I mean, building permits have gone up 70% in the city of Windsor. It's absolutely remarkable. And so there are so many metrics, and they're positive. They're positive metrics and things that have been happening in the city. We've been investing in the quality of life. We've been holding the line on taxes, and we've been making those record investments in our infrastructure, and of course, reflecting on safety and security of our community as well, and making sure that when 218,000 people put their head on the pillow at night, that they feel safe, that the police are there to protect them, and we've got the strategies in place to keep them safe. So I think we've made great strides as a community, and I'm proud of our record.
Okay, you'll have an opportunity at the end of this interview to reflect more on the past 4 years, but let's talk about now. Homelessness has become front and center during this campaign. What are you proposing to do about homelessness?
Well, I think if you look at our plan, we talk about affordable housing. And we know that we have 4,700 people on a waiting list for affordable housing. And homelessness is not just an issue in the city of Windsor. This is an issue that is a nationwide problem, such that the federal government has intervened and said we need to have a federal strategy. And they've put that strategy out, and now they're prepared to spend billions of dollars to help us at the municipal level fund the types of buildings that we need to construct and to upgrade some of the infrastructure that we already have. So we are the first city council in 30 years to put forward a plan that say we are going to build 150 affordable housing units over in the Meadowbrook area to try and make a dent, a small dent, but a dent nonetheless. The first city council in 30 years who stepped forward to do that. I also have called together the leaders of both hospitals. I've called together Family Services, Windsor Essex, the police, CMHA, Canadian Mental Health, psychiatrists. I have them all around a table telling me and working with me to try and find the right strategies to deal with the causes of homelessness. And so someone doesn't just wake up one day and find themselves homeless. There are causes to them. And we know some of the causes include mental health. Some of the causes include addiction. And some of those causes and the treatment for those causes are funded at different levels of government. So the City of Windsor does not fund health care. That's funded by the province. But I know today if someone comes to me and says, I have an addiction and I want help, it's an 8-week wait period for those folks who are seeking treatment. And so it's really about trying to align the resources that we have in the community. So much is going on here, so much good work is going on. It's trying to align those resources to make sure that we can deal with the causes of homelessness as we continue to build homes for those who need a place to stay.
Your critics are saying, why did it take so long?
Yeah, I think if you look at the transformation that's even happened in 2018, it has been fairly remarkable what we've seen in 2018, and we're not alone. You talk to any mayor in any big city across Canada, and we are in the same boat. We are absolutely in the same boat. And so we're responding in the way that we think is appropriate. We're providing resources to address it. And the fact of the matter is, we are addressing it. No one's sitting back ignoring the problem. We have the people around the table. We've put money on the table to make investments. And again, I go back and say, the first city council in 30 years to do this. That's my record, and I'm proud of that. And so we'll continue to do what we can do. We own a parking lot on Karen Avenue between Riverside Drive and University. I've already said that we are going to make that available for affordable housing. We're doing the phase 1 and phase 2 environmental on that to make sure that the site is clean. There was an old gas station there. We'll make sure it's clean so that we can get a partner, bring them in there, and build additional units as well. And we're prepared to waive taxes for 10 years. We're prepared to waive development charges, and we're prepared to work with a developer who wants to build more affordable housing in that area.
On the subject, the general subject of poverty, what is the logic behind selling the library downtown to the downtown mission?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. And there's been a lot of confusion and a lot of misinformation put out with respect to that particular issue. But this was an issue discussed at great length at the library board, at great length at city council. And we were really in a situation where the library downtown, the current library, is about twice the size of the structure that we need. We need something about 50 to 60,000 square feet. That building's about twice the size. And we were already underway with the plan for a new central library. We were approached by the downtown mission. And most people don't know, but the downtown mission is directly across the street on the other side of Olette Avenue from the existing central library, operating a 103-bed hostel, 103-bed shelter every single night. They have the other location on Victoria, and so folks sleep in one building and then they walk down to the other building for their meals. And so when we were approached by the mission, they came to us with an agreement of purchase and sale, saying, we'd like to buy your property. We're not just talking about it. We're prepared to make you an offer for the property. And they came in at the appraised value for the properties. And so the alternative that was in front of the library board and city council was that if they didn't purchase the central library, they were going to purchase the building next door, 880 Olette, which is a tower that's been vacant for many years. They had already purchased the old penalty box behind the main library. And so we knew that if they ended up acquiring the tower and the library was between these two locations, that it would cause some challenges for patrons at the central library. And we wanted to make sure that we were helping the mission do the good work that they do, but also making sure that we were doing the right thing for the taxpayer and getting fair market value for the building to be able to position the library to be built at about half the size somewhere else with another partner. And so we actually think that we've helped the effort. We've helped consolidate the mission in one location, and we understand their plan. Their plan is to offer some transitional housing on the second floor and do some major renovations on the second floor to give people a place to stay so they don't have to be on the street. And we liked that idea. We liked the idea of having a transitional place for people to go so that they don't have to sleep on the street or they don't choose to sleep on the street.
Well, in concert with that, we also have an opioid crisis in the city, you'll admit that.
Continental, that's a continental issue.
Yeah,
United
but
States and
let's
Canada.
talk Windsor.
Sure.
Okay, I can't walk down Elliott Street without kicking a syringe in that neighborhood. What are you doing about the opioid crisis?
So we have an opioid crisis that has taken over Canada, it's taken over the United States, and Windsor is not immune. And so we have responded, I think, in a responsible way, in a reasonable way, to address the things that we're seeing on the street. Again, we have the partners around the table to deal with some of the social side, the social service side, to get people help that they need. But with respect to what we're seeing on the street, we don't think needles are appropriate. There's no place for them on the street. So as a city, we've invested in 15 different sharps containers throughout the downtown core, trying to give people a place to properly dispose of their needles, and we run the collection system to make sure that those bins are emptied. We've hired additional outreach workers at the city to coordinate with the work that's going on at Family Services Windsor Essex to try and reach the people who are out there to get them into treatment, to get them help that they need so they don't feel like the street has to be their home. It's real interesting. Folks who are on the street, by and large, choose to be there because there's the mission, but we also fund the Salvation Army, and we get stats at the Salvation Army, and I can tell you for the last 40 days, only 5 days was that venue full. And so there was space every night at that venue. We spend $400,000 a year as a city putting people up in hotel rooms. If anyone comes to us and says that they're homeless, we find a place for them. No one needs to sleep on the street. So what people are seeing with increased frequency is people who are choosing to sleep on the street, and there's some reason for that. Some folks...
mental health issue.
Well, and some people just don't want to follow the rules. And so I think it's reasonable to say that if you go into the Downtown Mission or the Salvation Army or a shelter system, they have a reasonable rule that says you can't do drugs. You can't fight in there, and if you do, you're going to be exited from the property. And so some folks don't want to follow the rules that are very common sense, reasonable rules for most people, and they choose to be on the street. And so that's where we have the social services that we already provide, and we've enhanced those social services to try and get them the treatment they need to get them in the right frame of mind to become more productive citizens.
And not necessarily directly related, but sometimes related when people fall into crime because of drugs. What's your, I've heard 100 cameras downtown to try to make people safe downtown.
Yeah, so this is a multifaceted approach, and there is no doubt that folks who suffer from addiction, not every one of them, but many of them, if they're deep in their addiction, they need to fund it. And so they'll resort to petty crime in many cases to try and, maybe it's breaking into a car to try and steal the change that's in the cup holder to fund the next hit or fix that they need. And that victimizes a whole lot of people. And so I'm very conscious of that, which is why we've added 12 additional police officers to a special unit called the Problem-Oriented Policing Unit, going to be focused on the downtown core. We just announced yesterday we're hiring an additional 12 officers because the call volumes that we're seeing, the call volumes for service that we're seeing at Windsor Police have gone up dramatically year over year. And people expect a timely response, and we're going to give it to them. We're going to make sure that when people call 911 and they need service, that the police are able to respond in a timely way. We are going to increase our drugs, guns, and gangs unit. We are going to increase criminal intelligence. And we are going to do a whole host of things that have been announced, including cameras. I think cameras are part of the solution to let people know that we're watching. In public places, that there is someone there watching, that police have access to those cameras, and if someone calls for service, that they have the ability in the comm center to be able to look at what's going on in the area and provide the proper response to the calls that's coming in. We're going to move to the next generation of 911, enhanced 911, which will allow people to directly communicate with the comm center, send video, send text messages, all the digital communications that you would expect. We're going to be one of the first cities in Canada to have enhanced 911.
Okay, let me ask you for a quick answer on this one. Marijuana stores, are we in or out, and how many are we going to have if we're in?
Well, I suspect it'll be a decision for the next council to make. I suspect they will go in. The option to not be in the sale of marijuana only applies to retail storefronts. So no one can stop the mail order part of this, which will take effect in a couple weeks from now. And I suspect that the council will, say yes to the sale of marijuana at retail storefronts. We have no idea how many licenses the province will give out. The city is not going to be part of the process to approve licensing or approve store ownership. The province is taking complete control of that. But we have certainly advocated for reasonable restrictions when it comes to distances from schools, from parks, from addiction treatment centers, some of the common sense places that you wouldn't want to find those types of stores selling what they sell.
Okay, well, as we're taping this, there's been a tentative agreement for NAFTA. How will that help the city? First of all, a lot of people fear that we're going to lose FCA, meaning Fiat Chrysler Assembly Plant, and the Ford Motor engine plants eventually. How will this agreement help?
Well, it's amazing. And so I think if someone asked me in 2014, Drews, what's your worst fear as mayor of the city? And I said the thought of my largest employer going somewhere else. And so what we saw was the exact opposite. We saw Fiat Chrysler appreciate what's happening in this community, appreciate the hard work of the men and women who work in that Windsor assembly plant, and make $1 billion investment and hire 1,500 people in the city of Windsor. At the Ford plant, we saw the Prime Minister come down here. We saw the federal and provincial government invest $700 million into additional capacity at that plant. And so folks have stepped up, the businesses have stepped up, the government has stepped up, made investments that have hired thousands of employees literally, and then all of the spin-off jobs. And I think the fact that we have a new NAFTA, regardless of what it's called, I think bodes very well for the community. and the future of this community. I think we have built such great momentum over the last 4 years that now that there is some certainty, when there's uncertainty, people and businesses, they park their money. They don't make the investments. They want to see what happens when they want to get to certainty before they actually take their money off the sidelines and make the investments. And now that we have some certainty, I think you're going to see further investments by folks who've been parking it for about the last year. And so I'm excited about the future of the city.
Okay, we've got a minute left. This is your time to make your pitch to the voters of Windsor why you should be returned to office.
I have done everything that I said I was going to do in 2014 in terms of keeping taxes affordable in the city of Windsor, in keeping record investments going in our roads and sewers, creating jobs, again, unemployment down from 9.7 to 6.6%. And I'm the guy who keeps taxpayers first. I always have, and I always will. And so if I look forward, I continue to make sure that our community is an affordable community to invest for business, an affordable community to live for the residents, that we have the right amenities, that we're investing in our quality of life, that we're investing in our infrastructure. Roads and sewers are very important. We've shown that. We've proven that over the last 4 years. The commitment remains to do even more investments in our big sewer master plan. First part's already out there, $89 million, and there are other steps to come in 2019. And at the end of the day, this is about the taxpayers. You know, who's looking out for them and their best interests. I've always done that. I will always continue to do that. And I'm excited for the future of this city. I think the best days are yet to come, and I look forward to continuing to lead the city after October 22nd.
Okay, thanks for being here today, and good luck.
My pleasure. Good to see you again.
Thanks. That's We Politics for today. Check out our other interviews on wetv.ca.